Welcome to Tea Time with Shayleigh and Amber. I'm Shayleigh Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Leidick, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello and welcome to the podcast. We have a question for you. Have you ever needed to have a conversation with somebody and you've avoided it because you want to get it right? You want to make sure the words are right. You want to form a fully formed thought. You're not sure if you can figure it out yourself. You're not sure if you need to consult with a person. Maybe you consult with a bunch of other people other than the actual person that you need to connect with. We want to talk about that because why is it something that we do as humans, avoiding the conversation, the needed conversation? This is happening in multiple areas of my life right now, or it was, and not in a way where I'm avoiding things and I'm never going to talk about them with the person. And it's not necessarily in a fear, I don't think, but I will find myself feeling a certain type of emotion about a situation or a scenario and thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it until I either get more emotional and it turns into a thing or I resolve it on my own. But what keeps us from just having the conversation in the moment like an animal would, you know? An animal would be upset right now about their toy. They would have the conversation and that's it. So is it us not trusting that the other person has the capacity to hear it? Is it us not trusting that we have the capacity to tell it in a compassionate way? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts. Um, I feel like it's like individual, right? And it's based off of the beliefs that you're carrying with you and your stories about what connection is and how you receive it, how you keep it and sustain it. And I feel like there's a lot of fear for people to say, or especially around boundaries. Like if it's someone has crossed your boundary and you want to speak up about it, that was always hard for me. And I know it stemmed from, well, it's okay. It's no big deal. I'll be fine. I'm strong. I'm resilient. I'm all the things when it's like, well, you don't actually have to be. And I think for me, it was a fear of loss. It was a fear of like rejection. They're going to push back on what I say. And do I have the words to back up how I feel? Like, do I even know how I feel? Like, maybe I shouldn't feel this way. Like, it's almost like you overthink yourself out of it. And I think we're not taught the skills from a young age to actually stop and listen to ourselves to figure out how we actually feel, what we actually want, and how we communicate that to other people in a way where we're not putting the responsibility on them, but we're speaking to like how we feel in the situation. And then being okay if they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And they dip out because it's like a filtration system. Those conversations are filtering out the people that need to be in your life versus the people that it's time for evolution and for them to go on to their next space without you. But I think people get so attached. They get so attached to the people that are in their lives because they associate their identity in relationship with that person, even with their animals, where it seems like if this goes away, then who am I? What am I? If this dynamic changes, what does that mean? I'll be alone. And I think it brings up like a million different things for people when they think of having the hard conversations because it's so much uncertainty. Like, and people don't like uncertainty. Our nervous system doesn't, it's not really its jam. It doesn't love the uncertainty.
Even in my own nervous system, I think of conversations I've recently had, and my biggest uncertainty is this going to make me cry? Because crying is something that I have been working very hard on allowing myself to do and not feeling weak and being empowered through it and recognizing that there's strength in that vulnerability and all of those things. And I find myself feeling charged about a conversation and feeling like I'm going to go into it and cry and avoiding it because I don't want that to happen. And it's usually because I really, really care about the thing.
Mm.
And one of the things that is coming forward actually is I had a conversation. Sometimes I'll have conversations with my husband and I will say, I felt this way because of this experience, or I'll just tell him how I feel, and he wants a concrete example. And just how you said, do I even know how I feel? Am I going to be able to back up with what I'm saying? He asks for a concrete example, and my mind, I swear, every time goes blank. And
Dude,
I will say,
the
I
struggle is
know
real.
I have an example. I know I do. I just can't think of one in this moment. And then I feel dumb because I can't tell him why I'm feeling the way that I feel or even tell him a scenario. But I think that is I hate to call it a trauma response, but I think it is the nervous system protecting me in some way, because then when I'm not emotionally charged and I'm thinking later, I'll be like, oh, this was the scenario. But in that moment, I usually can't. It's very fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that's why there's so much value in having conversations that are hard when people are regulated, and they don't teach you that shit either when you're little. Like, you see these moments where people are in that fight or flight, where they're in survival because something has triggered them, hurt them deeply, whatever it may be, even if the other person had no intention of doing it, like the impact was negative on the person. So then you have one person who, this is a straight ass example from the other night, where I don't hear things. Okay. I don't hear things. Apparently, my ears, I've been here in Florida and my allergies, I don't really have allergies, but I have them here with something. So I feel like my head has been inside this like bubble and the air conditioning's always on, like, it's just freaking loud here, right? And there was an expectation of my boyfriend who wanted to do you want to sit on the couch and watch a movie? I didn't hear that. In fact, I was in the kitchen. I said yes. I was in the kitchen, and my thought was, wow, he just started that movie. I wonder if he even wants me to watch it with him, because who starts a movie without somebody if they want you to watch it with him? Like, we had our own completely different experiences where I just kept going about my business, feeding the kid, and like I needed to make the playlist for the journey. So I sat on the couch and he said, "Do you want to cuddle?" And I said, "Yeah, is it okay if I work on this?" Because the movie was playing and I had my headphones in. And he was like, "Yeah, sure." Allegedly, I said a few minutes. Well, it was like 30 minutes because I couldn't find that one song I needed to find. And I put my phone down, I'm like, cool, I'm done. And then I like scoot over to sit next to him and I'm all excited. The movie's over. I didn't know there was a time limit. I didn't know there was an expectation. We spend a lot of time managing expectation, knowing who you're with or whatever. And I know he gets expectations and it must be this way. And so we were having two totally different experiences. And when I was done, I sat next to him and he was like, "Movie's over." Flipped the TV off, like, got up off the couch, and I'm like sitting there like, well, I have no idea what just happened. I'm thinking like, whoo, I just got this thing done. I'm so excited to hang out. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I had no idea that when the movie was over, it was like lights out. But immediately he's having his own experience where he is in a totally different nervous system. When I feel someone else's nervous system go that way, my nervous system immediately kicks on, which I know is a trauma response. And a lot of people have it. And people, you can call you an empath and call you whatever you want. If you're really tuned into the people around you, it's
Mhm.
much harder to be like, let me stay grounded in this moment. Let me look at it from his perspective right now. What could have happened? Um, we're not really good at having conversations until now, regulated, and it was something that he really didn't understand before, but I think does now. And went upstairs. I go up there, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. The sheet wasn't on the bed. I didn't know we were going to bed. It was just like it snowballed pretty quickly. And it was for the first time that I was like, I'm not having this conversation and out of a regulated state. And he was like, great. And then came downstairs. And And it was the first time where I was like, oh, I don't have to be worried about him leaving me. All of the things that I think normally would have sent me into like a panicked people pleasing like freak out. And I just let it and then texted him, love you, and then eventually came back up and the next morning. We never have waited till the morning. I will say one thing is things do not fester in this relationship ever. Okay? Like ever. And so it was good because it was like the next morning and I was able to sit in front of this person instead of going at battle, me defending why I'm still a good person and didn't mean it, and him defending why he had the experience and having everyone being dysregulated. Nobody knows what the hell they're saying. You cannot think straight. You cannot be empathetic. You are strictly in survival. And I feel like what happens is when we're amid these conversations, if somebody misunderstanding is a big thing for me. If someone misunderstands me, I am like
Me too.
fully like, oh God, like it just makes me sick because I'm like, no, like I really do care. Like, and I think you knowing yourself and knowing your things that get you kind of riled up and out of it is useful because when I feel that happening, I can like take a step back and go, wait, whoa, like I need a few minutes because the things that are about to come out of my mouth are probably not really aligned with how I feel. It's me being protective and scared and sad and, and not how we're trying to have conversations. So I think when you're trying to recall certain specific things, it's usually because you're already triggered and your brain is like, bitch, we don't need to remember that right now. We are trying to survive in this current moment. We don't
Mhm.
need to be thinking about specific times. That is not important right now. We are just trying to make it through this conversation. So it's like, I think if people understood that and if they knew that and if they had the conversations they were having with people, I think what he says about me that I do is that and it frustrates them because I'm a slow thinker and I need to go through that whole process of am I triggered? Is this my stuff? Is it old? Is it my intuition? I'm like, "Brrr," as he's asked me a question. And then if something is bothering me still, then I will bring it up. But I think most people just feel it and it either comes out and it comes out in like a fight space or it gets stuffed in and it festers until you're like, everything is wrong. I hate everything. Everyone needs to go because I think people go one way or another.
Definitely. And I am someone who does not like being misunderstood. And
God, what is that? It's the
also,
worst feeling.
it really is. And I also don't appreciate being confused. Like, if someone tells me that, and maybe this is why we get along with horses so well, because horses do not like to be misunderstood and they don't like to be confused. They really don't. They need clarity. They need clarity, like, honestly, at the very least. And when I was having a conversation with someone recently, and she was telling me, "You always trigger me." And she said this to me for years. What you said to me triggered me. And finally, and it's so interesting because it's one of those experiences where we never had the conversation with each other of why. I would just be like, oh, okay, and kind of back off. But then even me backing off felt to her like a form of abandonment. And I had no idea. So we're just living these little experiences with each other with this undertone. And the other day she said, "You sent me a message and it really triggered me." And I finally just trusted that she had the capacity to understand where my heart was from because I think, and maybe this is where some of it comes from, in the past, having relationships based on my own point of awareness, my own growth, my own whatever, I would enter into friendships where it was almost like they were thinking that I had the worst intentions. It's like they would look for the worst thing first instead of being
Mm.
like, "Oh, that really hurt my feelings, but I know she has her heart in the right
Yes.
place."
Yes.
They wouldn't think my relationships in the past, it's really fascinating. I just had this conversation with my friend Donna because I was like, why don't I trigger you and why don't I trigger Amber? Because I say some pretty blunt stuff. And I usually say things to you guys, you are my two, especially, that I say things to you right away. And it comes from a place of I need to be understood or that, and the two of you are like just the queens at understanding me. And I'm like, why is that? And she said it's because we understand where it's coming from. We understand that your heart is in the right place and we're looking for that. And
Mhm.
it made me reflect the other night on so many of my past relationships where I would be so well meaning, I would be giving my heart forward, and the person, it's almost like everything I said, they were looking for ill intent within it.
Mhm.
And I felt like I couldn't say anything right. And it was very confusing. So I had this conversation with her where I was like, it doesn't help me for you to tell me that I'm triggering you because you say that. And I'm just left, one, misunderstood, and two,
Mhm.
confused. Like, what do I do next? And granted, I would never say, what can I do about that? What can I change? Because for me, if someone, and this is where maybe like knowing your audience too, or where the self awareness piece comes in, and that's why we keep talking about it. Because for me, if someone is triggering me, my mind immediately goes to, oh, I don't like that. I say it like this, I don't like that. If you're ever talking with me and something bothers me, I say, I don't like that.
I feel
And, but
like
then
that.
I
I feel like
explain.
Sage's face would do that. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Insert Boston Terrier. Yes, exactly. And but then I always give a reason why. I feel like it's so important to be like, "Oh, I felt this way." And oftentimes, and like I said, I think this is where the self-awareness goes. I will oftentimes give an explanation and it'll usually be because of something that I feel or something that I've experienced. But when you don't give that explanation, it leaves someone feeling super frustrated. So sometimes I think that's where conversations get avoided as well, because most of us can feel when there's that tension between us and we don't know where it's coming from. And I think too, in my past relationships, like from an unhealed place, it would be like, well, I'm not going to say something, like she should be the one saying something, no, she, and we're probably both feeling like that. We're feeling worried. I, again, like you said, the fear of the unknown. um so yeah.
Yeah, I think to speak to the like giving the why. I think people don't do that because they don't know why. And I think there's a very small amount of people on the planet that are doing the actual work to understand why they're triggered because ultimately your triggers are your responsibility. So it's a fine line of being compassionate, especially if you're in a committed friendship, relationship with family, with kids, whatever, where you're like, I can't just ghost this person. Like this person is in my life and there's some level of compassion I'm going to have for the fact that yes, I have triggered you. I want to understand where you historically have been hurt so that I can be mindful around that stuff. But and also that's still your responsibility to clean that up. Like I can't walk around being so careful every moment of every day that I don't say something that you might not like. It's just too much to keep track of. Honestly, like I have to keep track of my own things and yours. Like, and I feel like that piece is hard because when someone outsources their happiness, their satisfaction, their whatever they need, and puts it on how I'm acting and how I need to behave to make sure that they can feel a certain way, it immediately puts me in this like, no, like I don't have that to hold for you too. Like my own shit is pretty heavy. Like I'm doing that for myself currently. But I just don't think that a lot of people are understanding of that. And if you say something like that to someone, it's gonna sound like you just don't give a fuck. When I think you can drain yourself, and I have in past relationships until I was completely like lifeless and physically ill, trying to make sure I was a certain way to make sure that they could be okay. And I think learning that the hard way, because I love it's like my learning language. Let me learn the hard, slow way until now. Um, where it's like I had to have that experience to understand how and why I would want to protect that part of me. And I think I have a balance now where I'll feel myself slipping into that and I'm like, whoa, actually. And um in the current relationship I'm in, that's been the growth where it's like maybe I'm farther along in that work, but my example of how I pause and I don't just spew when I'm upset how I wait till I feel like, how do I really feel and why, so that I can give that piece. It's been that you have to be this way because it made me feel this way, and me not going, that's actually your responsibility. Like, but to understand it and go, I love you and I'm compassionate to that. But actually, like, I can't be that. If I'm not happy and perky right now, I can't force it. I'm never gonna, like, So I think it's just this like commitment to yourself. And I think, like I said, like those conversations act as a filter, because if people can't hear you or understand you, then and don't want to see the heart of who you are through the words or through the hurt or through whatever it is, then they're probably just not meant to be in your life, which sucks for sure because you lose a lot of people. But when you realize you have people around where you're like, oh, I just get to say how I feel, and there's so much deep healing around that when you can just go, I feel this thing, I'm gonna say it, and oh, no one rejected me. There was no tears, there was no anger, there was no lashing out, there was understanding, and there was like, oh shit, okay, like whatever,
Right. My
whatever.
heart's in the right place.
Yeah, whatever the resolution is, that becomes, those friendships and relationships become the medicine for your heart. And actually, that's where the healing comes from. It's not from you fighting for your worth or trying to make someone understand you. It's like being around the people that really actually want to understand you while
Mhm.
simultaneously protecting their own peace at the same time. Because then that alone gives you permission to be able to be like, I don't really like that either. Like if someone that you're with can say, hey, I don't like when this happens. I'm not saying you have to change, but I'm saying if you want to be with me, like that's not going to work for me. Knowing that they have the confidence in the relationship to say that to you gives you permission to also say, oh, that means I get to speak up about the things that I don't want. And then that can also be very healing as well.
Yeah, very healing. I just had that experience with, yeah, a friend of mine where we had this experience where I was not behaving in the way that she wanted me to. And so she, that was very hard for her. And we kind of parted our ways. And recently we reconnected and she kind of told me her piece. And I was like, okay, but I feel like this is coming from a place of me not behaving in a way that you want me to, and I'm very true to myself. And it was such a beautiful conversation, and like this evolved. And we always talk about this where you get what you put out into the universe, right? You get good at what you practice. So I have been really practicing calling in these like beautiful heart centered relationships where I feel like everyone around me right now, all of my friends, my family members are so like they see where my heart is coming from. I don't feel misunderstood. I just haven't practiced being in those relationships in a while now. And it's so fun. It's so good. And now I'm reconnecting with this person, and it's been so fun to reconnect with her because she's like, now I recognize all of that stuff was a projection. And I was like, well, I wasn't innocent either. Like I was in that vibrational space, which was calling that into me as well. And we are both able to have like that conversation being two self-aware individuals. It's actually so fun and so freeing. And I was like, oh, all the tension is out of my chest. This is so nice. Like we can have a fun. So those friendships, the ones that are meant to grow alongside you, they'll come back into your experience. So not using that excuse to keep yourself limited because you really don't want to lose the person. Like if the
Right.
person is really going to grow with you, they will find you again. And I think another piece that is so important. This is going to be my one piece of advice, and maybe you can think of your one piece of advice to like close out our little conversation. To validate how you feel, not just the story around it. Because
Mm,
so many of us, I feel, will validate the story, all the reasons. That's what we immediately go to, right?
mhm.
I feel this way, but hold on, let me explain. Let me explain why I feel this way. And it's this whole thing instead of just saying, I feel this way. And that's enough for me. Like, I am upset. And then being able to, and I think that's what you've been saying in this whole conversation, being able to recognize I'm really upset right now, honor that, and then take a second with that before you really go further into the conversation, because that's what's going to allow you to be more objective or to be more grounded within it.
Yeah, I think for me it's that Your triggers are your biggest gift. They're the entry point to where your healing is. Like those are the things that happen and you feel and have that sensation in your body. Yeah, like you said, you immediately go to the story around it, like, well, let me, and it's like, I don't need to justify the way I feel. I can just sit with it and I can experience it, especially if it's super over threshold where you're like, all of a sudden you feel like the rush of heat and like your eyes water up and your heart is pounding and you have no saliva. That is not the time to have the conversation. It's like, go take the time to like have some sort of practice to do, whether it's, I don't care if it's screaming, it's running, it's exercising, it's meditating, like whatever it is to break up that pattern and then investigate, like either having a conversation with that part of the body or being like, okay, is this mine? Is this old? Is it just is something that looks familiar that was problematic touching that wound and causing this response out of me that has nothing to do with what's actually happening? Like, is the person standing in front of me trying to hurt me, trying to belittle me, trying to make me feel rejected? If they are, in fact, then get rid of them. But if not, it's like that's where you can take that self responsibility and go, okay, I need to be able to weed through this and see what I can take care of on my own. And then if I'm with someone who wants to be with me, then I can at least from a place of clarity go, this is where this is coming from. This is what I need you to understand about me. You don't have to do things different, but if something like this happens again, I might need a minute and you understand why. It's like getting to know yourself really well is like imperative, and then having like a little toolbox of things that you can go to when you're like, whoa, sometimes you just need to be in it, in the chaos of that feeling. And I think people get confused and they think, well, I need to be regulated all the time, I need to be like, oh, and I'm like, that is not how the nervous system works. Like, it's fine to get upset, it's fine to have all of the emotions, like, don't try to stuff them, experience them, let them move through, and on the tail end of it, sort through it, and then have the conversation, not when you're in the middle of it. But I think having those tools to be able to like, oh, let me just pause, like the power of the pause, which,
Mhm.
like I was saying, in my current relationship, it's something that he's learning where he's like, oh, like, I love that you do that. It frustrates me because I want to know now what's going on. And I'm like, you don't want to know now what's happening inside of my brain because it's going to hurt your feelings. So just give me a minute. But I think that's like people, like I said in the beginning, like people don't learn that. They don't learn to take a pause and sort through their own shit before they have the conversation. But
That I thought was really helpful that I heard in a Mel Robbins podcast, because when you're at the beginning of the work, it can be difficult to have all of this in mind, because you're
mm,
still in the space of being upset and projecting your stuff on, whoever you're talking to. And I was listening to one of her podcasts the other day, and it was something like how to talk to someone who's rude to you or belittling you. And the person she was interviewing said to ask them to repeat, like, I'm sorry, can you say that again? What was that? Because then it gets the person to like reflect. And then the other thing was, did you mean to say that to me? Like, did
mm,
you intend to hurt my feelings? And
mm-hmm,
asking it straight out like that to just bring accountability and knowing, I think something like that is so cool and important for like someone, like I want my husband to say that to me too. Like I think it needs to go both ways, but just being like, "Oh, I'm sorry, can you say that again?" Or even just in the moment, if we could recognize that our feelings are hurt and just ask the question instead of being like, "Oh my God, you're such a dick," or you're, whatever.
mm-hmm. Or
Just like, right,
assume
yeah.
that they
So
know.
yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Instead
Yeah.
of assuming, we can just ask the question, did you mean to hurt my feelings? Did you mean to make me feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause oftentimes it would be no. And how many conflicts, like just by asking that question, do you think that we can avoid, and like misunderstandings and so many things if we would just ask in the moment when we're feeling bad, did you intend to do that to me?
Right. So simple, yet so complicated. Yeah, I just think depending on the emotional charge associated with the experience, it's your brain doesn't go to that. You know what I mean? It's like immediate, like, oh God, that's what mine does. Or I just know and I think that that is partially associated with how people grow up or whatever. Like you learn to read the room really well.
Mhm.
And the way I grew up, it was like there's a lot of responsibility around my behavior was going to determine everyone else's experience. So if I needed to be good and get good grades and be the good kid, because if I didn't, I would cause strain on my mom and, my family, whatever. So I'm so tapped into that stuff. Like the moment anyone looks like a little bit off, I immediately am like, oh my God, this is mine. I have to fix this right now, which is not a thing. But that's what my entire nervous system does, which is I can feel it happen and I'm like, no, no, stop right now. Um, but yeah, in the beginning it's tricky because there's so many parts to it, but I think staying in the practice and knowing like the value and being able to be resilient and recover quickly. Like I just talked about this morning on a podcast where it was like, I'm not trying to train myself to be zen and calm all the time. I'm trying to expand my capacity to handle stressful moments and stay grounded in them. So what I do with the horses, and it's what I want to do for my kids, and it's what I want to do for myself, where it's like you're never going to live in a world that is like perfect and all the timing is right and nothing is ever stressful and no one ever cuts you off and no one ever is going to offend you. But like how fast can you recover from that? Like how quickly can you call your power back and be like, I'm not going to let some rando stranger that just is a shitty driver create stress in my body, destroy my immune system, and have me spew my annoyance onto some random other person, which is usually what happens. Like, I'm just not going to do that. I just refuse. So I think that piece, that recovery time is like really what you're going for. Like, how fast can I recover from this? How grounded can I get? How clear can I get before I have this conversation?
Definitely. So let us know how your conversations go after this. If you're remembering to stay grounded, present, pausing, all the things, or if you flew off the handle, it's all okay. It's all part of the human experience. Sometimes we just need permission to be human. We have a webinar coming up. What
Mhm.
date is it? The 24th.
4th,
Of
3
this month.
p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Judgment, the judgment day. All things judgment. And what did you added the little tagline to it, judgment, the path to presence, I think it was, or something like that.
Yes.
All of our webinars that we have, we try to dig around for the virtues. Nothing is to be gotten rid of. It's all for us to learn lessons from and do the work. And the webinars have been fun because like we do the talking, you get the workbook. We pull in how it affects the relationships with your horses, how your horses experience it in their own way and with you in relationship, and then usually do a little journey, hypnosis, somatic thing, meditation, whatever it is for that one, and help you actually integrate that in lessons from what we have done. So they've been really fun. So this is gonna be our third one. You guys should join us. We'll put the
Yes.
link in the show notes. Um, but like speaking of having tools, if you guys feel like you're liking the vibe of us, like definitely make sure you share, subscribe, and do all the things, especially with this particular podcast, I feel like is really significant for a lot of people. But we have so many tools in our tea house, which is our membership. So if you guys want to get in on that, adding new meditations all the time, we have lots of fun stuff coming up. We have member spotlights. We're gonna do, well, we have our, what else are we having? I forgot.
Book
We talked about all the things we were
club.
gonna have and it's all gone. Oh
We have
yeah.
a book club. We're just doing so much in there. Weekly calls. We just went live. Honestly, it's a little community. It's a family in there. And sometimes I just post an event and I need to see faces and just connect with everybody, pop a little animal channeling in there every once in a while, or Amber will do a meditation. It's just a fun community to have, and everyone's supporting everybody. And it's become my real world. I just expect my world to be like the individuals in the tea house. I
I
don't even go on
know.
Facebook unless I'm in there. So,
We don't even have people that are not aligned. Like we don't even call those people in. So
yeah,
it's a
it's
really
really beautiful.
safe, cool place where people get to share and celebrate and also come for support. And it's like a little family in there. So if you're interested in having that in your life, you don't have it in your current physical life, you can have it in your virtual life. And we
Mhm.
do in-person things. We have all actually, a lot of us have met each other in person.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's also a real life thing.
All right.
All
See you next
right.
time.
Bye. Okay.
All right. Should
Mm.
we, what should our picture be? For some reason, I was thinking that